Aloha, friends and neighbors. Welcome. This is Astrology, Ancient Science in the Modern World. We're going to take a look at the sky mirror for the second week in July 2016. And I got something I just got to share with you before I get to the nuts and bolts of the sky mirror. And while the logo's on here, remember you can get this show at skymirrorastrology.com/TV and watch the show anytime, and the last 5 shows too. Anyway, I got something to say here first. I'm here on the 21st of June. The moon went by Pluto, sextiled Jupiter and the nodes. I had more discovery, and I just got to share it with you. I can't contain myself. Check this out. Okay, these are pictures of Antarctica. And everybody knows it's melting. And NASA evidently is gearing up to really find out what's under all the ice. And they have this ground-penetrating radar they were trying out. And they captured a small part of the continent. And something strange came up. Here's the way the ice looks. And the thing is, here, this is what the ground-penetrating radar found. Now this is under, 2 miles of ice. Yes, 2 miles of ice. You recognize it? Does that look familiar? A lot of the ancient alien stuff and I think Fingerprints of the Gods, Graham Hancock, they go on about the map that somebody found about 500 years ago. Some captain had it in Portugal, and it showed the outline exactly of the continent of Antarctica. And they said this thing had to be done when there was no ice there. And lately we found out the Ice Age started 30,000 years ago, and then started letting up about 15,000 years ago. Well, what is this? By now you'll recognize this. I mean, yeah, here's the same pattern we see elsewhere. Right, here it is at Teotihuacan, where I hope to be in January. And there's exactly the same pattern. And it's the same. What's going on here? What's this? Here's the Great Pyramid in Egypt. The original ones everybody's been wondering over for years. Here's exactly the same pattern. Of course, it's Orion's belt. You see it now. The Hopis have it on the mesas up in Arizona. Why is it, huh? And these are the Great Pyramids, the one built by the civilization long before the Ice Age, huh? And these guys were doing power things with great, huge pyramids, and for some reason, they had to do the Orion belt pattern. Don't know why. I suspect it's something telepathic and spiritual, and amazing mystery still to be learned, huh? Now realize this is NASA's newest gadgetry, ground-penetrating radar that can see through 2 miles of ice. But here you clearly see the same figures. Yeah, there's probably another one up here, or down here someplace that completes the Orion's belt thing. I can see a little bit of something up here. At any rate, under 2 miles of ice. Everybody's scrambling to find out what's under there. Resources, yeah, resources, a virgin continent. And NASA's putting up a satellite in 2 years that has all this ground-penetrating radar stuff on it. And they are going to really find out what's there. But I don't think that's too important compared to what we just learned. Wowie zowie, Egypt, Teotihuacan, Antarctica, all over the world. Now we begin to see the remnants of the big civilization, something more noble, smart, high-type people, and we are the remnants of that. We're the leftovers. We're the ones that are recuperating from the... Yeah, what a thing, huh? Wow. Okay, let's start again. Welcome to show 1023 and the second week of July 2016. And what's the basic news is probably what you're feeling is Mars. And Mars is still cooking. The question is, Mars slowed down and stopped on the 29th of June. And classically, when the planet slows down and stops, when that actor stops, that's when he's most loud on the stage, reverses direction. Doesn't matter which way he's going. What matters is he stops stations, we call it. And what I found in my research is when I was younger doing gold and stuff is that 20 days on either side of a stationing planet. You feel it. So it's kind of like one of these little bell-shaped curves that you learned in statistics, huh? And this little bell-shaped curve has at its center the 29th, and there's 20 days on either side, so you should feel the heat and the fires and notice it cooking inside yourself a little bit. I mean, you're only, 9 days from there now. Well, if you're on the 7th, you're 8 days from there. So you've got another, easy 10 days as this thing tails off and the heat subsides and the anger and the fires. And so Mars is still there, and he's still, ask yourself what you're protecting. You're to know that this guy is a fireman. He's a fix-it guy. He's a carpenter. He's the EMT. He's the fireman. He's not the god of war. He's an agricultural god. He's supposed to take care of the trees and the forests and the garden and that sort of stuff. And only when he doesn't know how to protect or what he's protecting, or he gets confused, out comes a sword, you got the god of war. So if you've got the god of war inside you, boiling over here still, ask yourself what you're protecting. Your Mars hasn't got it clear about what you're protecting. Once it's clear, bang, the anger, the impatience is gone in a minute. They're just physical stuff to do. Now I figure the Mars thing is going to peek out a little bit. Let's do some details. If you're here on the Thursday night show, the moon's in early Virgo. Not too bad. It's Friday. The moon's still in Virgo, and well, let's get after it here. There's kind of a skitsy feeling to this period because there's some really nice periods when all the planets are lined up happily, and some that aren't. So Friday morning, sometime here around the middle of the day or before lunch, the moon squares Saturn and opposes Neptune. There's confusion, there's judgment. Don't make rules. You begin to see how many of our institutions have morphed into confusion, and we're paying for it. Yep. So, this is one of those Friday mornings when you don't want to buy into anything. By the afternoon, the moon goes by the North Node, and you feel a little more nurturing about things. And then by Friday evening, late, well, there's a nice sun sextile. You feel like we're going to get a hold of this thing after all. And then about midnight, early in the morning, Saturday, the moon goes by Jupiter, and there's new stuff going on. Yeah, new stuff. There's a trine to Pluto. There's more discovery. Maybe things that I've been waiting for this discovery for a long time. I've always been curious about why people have white skin and blue eyes, and it didn't seem like there were time to do that in an evolutionary way. So I knew there was something fishy about how old the races and man are, and now all of a sudden we're back 30, 50,000 years. Civilization better than ours. Wow. Anyway, truth comes out late Friday night, early Saturday morning. Saturday, in the morning, in the middle of the day, here's a nice sextile to Mars first. The hero's out. He says, I'm going to macho out here and fix something, and Venus is watching, and she'll reward him. So Saturday is, couples are going to walk around arm in arm and feel romantic, and it's kind of sexy and nice social time. You can have a party you want to do it Saturday afternoon. Late in the evening, about 8, 9, 10, the moon shifts into Libra, and it feels a little different. Sunday, the moon's in Libra all day. It makes a nice sextile to Saturn late in the evening after dinner. We're kind of organized, but be on guard, because Monday, here's the square to Pluto, and there's panickiness. And there's a square to the sun. We're not getting anything done, and there's an opposition to Uranus. Things are shaky. The power went out. I don't know where we're going. We can't communicate. We can't transportate. Or it's a Monday of that kind of crisis. And probably got so hot all the power blew out because of air conditioners. Whatever it is, people are panicky, and there's really difficulty here. And the media are breaking down that communications, the electronics, the difficult, very difficult time. Can't move. Airplanes aren't moving. The cable is out. Ugh. Tuesday afternoon, and the moon shifts into Scorpio. Things mellow out a little bit and start to feel a little different. And if you can get over the trials of Monday, wow. Wednesday, the moon's in Scorpio, starts with a nice trine to Neptune. There's music. We feel the higher, little compassion for everybody finally. Then there's a sextile to Pluto in the afternoon of Wednesday, and there's discovery, and we're glad we're compassionate, and we're being the artist, and feeling things deeply. Dive into stuff Wednesday. It's good for you, good for the heart. Thursday, your plans will work out good. There's a nice trine to the sun, but the moon going by Mars in the middle of Thursday, July 14th, I don't know. Here's some anger and some heat and some irritation and some fighting, and which way does it go? I don't know, but Uranus will be the loser in the thing. There's a seesaw, a quincux, 150-degree angle to Uranus. Mars gets hot. You got to give up your freedom. It's the homeless guys that are really hurting. I had a lady call me today. This is June 21st. And she was in Laughlin down by Colorado River. It was 123 degrees there, right near Las Vegas. Wow. So I figure there'll be some maximum stuff going on here on Thursday the 14th. And after that, this will tail off a little more. You'll start coming out of this zone here of this bell-shaped curve a bit. Friday, the moon's in Sagittarius. And it starts to feel confusing again, because Friday night, here's the conjunction to Saturn. We can't move. We're all worried. We're restricted. We're freaking out. Make laws, make rules. Here's a square to Neptune. Here's confusion, delusion, smoke, mirrors, bullshit. Shabai, we call it in Hawaii. And people are saying things they don't mean, and this is not a time to make some rules or regulations or laws. We ought to, give all these so-called lawmakers Fridays off. Bad Fridays. Saturday, you'll still feel the sting of that confusion and the lack of organization. Here you experience Friday night and Saturday morning, and people are trying to do too much, and they're squawking, and they're going to speak up, and everybody's speaking up too much Saturday afternoon. But finally, Saturday night, here's a nice trine to Uranus, and the media is back on, and the internet is telling you some common sense truths, and maybe you'll be lucky. And Saturday night for me, I take time off for underground movies on TCM. It's the one time I reserve on this flat plane of American television, which is terrible for your mind. But on Saturday nights, Turner Classic Movies plays on. You never know what you're going to get. Could be horrible things, give you nightmares. Could be really funny. But they're underground. They're not your normal run-of-the-mill video movies, etc. So, I hope there's a good science fiction movie on here Saturday night. I'm looking forward to that time, to that trine to Uranus, and a little common sense and Aquarian thought. Sunday, the moon's still in Sagittarius till you get past breakfast. So you're going to feel some of that genius still. And then, after breakfast, before lunch, moon shifts into Capricorn. And Sunday night, here's a sextile to Neptune. There's some music and art, and some higher heart comes out, which is kind of nice. And that's kind of the way it is. And Mars, wow. He's a character. Ku to the Hawaiian. Yeah, he takes care of the forest, the cutter of canoes. He's the guy that's supposed to be protecting our crops and our earth and stuff. It's a frustrating job now, isn't it? Sure is. Fingerprints of the Gods. Graham Hancock has enormous common sense, and he went and he visited these places. Anyway, here's another one. Here's Teotihuacan. It turns out that this big, huge, vast, flat road, they call it, is level within, half an inch from one end to the other. And many years ago, I had a friend who went to these places, told me about these trenches. He said were like 1 foot wide, 1 foot deep, and 100 feet long. And he couldn't figure out what they were for. They were meant for water, obviously, but you couldn't drink from them, wash your feet in them, do laundry in them, feed the goats. It wasn't like that. And so I decided that he did too. They were meant for earthquake prediction. So Graham Hancock picked this up, and he actually found that Mr. Schlemmer's theory was that he went through all these different ponds and things, and earthquakes make standing waves. And so this guy had discovered that there was another secret to the... So, these great pyramids, which it doesn't appear were done by Aztecs or Mayans or any of those people, but by somebody, way before them. What the evidence is coming out is, it suggests, what does Graham Hancock say? A scientifically evolved civilization not yet identified. Well, to use water and calm water, because an earthquake way off, and then have them at different angles and predict the size of the earthquake and the distance and study earthquakes. That's a very high science. Anyway, interesting thing. Graham Hancock goes through all this wonderful stuff, and a lot of the things that I've been studying on, and comes to this conclusion beautifully, but not through the whole thing. Maybe through the whole book he might mention the word astrology once. No, he goes along, he realizes that they're not some gods. He hasn't made the connection yet that when all these guys talk about the gods in the sky, they're just talking about planets. But he never mentions the word astrology, astrologer. It's always astronomers and mathematics. And yet what he's talking about is precession. And so he gets into a lot of stuff. But see, the unknown, here it is again, I yellowed out. The unknown astronomers and measurers of time bequeathed to the ancient Mayans a calendar of amazing complexity. So what he's picked up is that this amazing stuff that we've found, which we look to see is 3, 4, 5,000 years old, those are the guys that just went over the top of a much more ancient civilization. Well, perfectly sloped areas that aren't really roads but made for earthquakes. Look at this. Does this look kind of similar, huh? Doggone. Now they're finding out there's so many discoveries going on. Pluto stopping and trying to Jupiter, and good lunations and the nodes, and wow, Pluto is just cooking. And just a brief review, a lot of these folks have just walked past some of the biggest discoveries. For instance, that there's a crease down the middle of this that is even more amazing kind of engineering, because this crease is only like an inch deep, and so this side is like one big mirror, and it's flat, and it's sloped in to where there's just a 1-inch indent here, and this one is the same way. So what happens, and the north-south, you know, Sam Osmanagich always says he recognizes them by the way their squareness and also their north-south orientation. So here at Giza, it's set up so that, you know, when the equinox happens, which is a very important time and one of the most powerful times ever to start things, that's astrology, folks. Yes. So these guys are trying to tell a large number of people, you know, with a big sign here, when the equinox is, and this thing operates within about a minute. Yes. And then when they looked at the pyramids of Teotihuacan, pyramid every bit as big as the one in Egypt, that these do the same things. And one fellow measured it, and it turns out in 66.6 seconds, this whole thing shifts from one shade to sunlight. So the shadow system at Chichen Itza, with the, you know, with the great snake coming down the side of it, which happens at the equinox. It's set up to tell the whole population, hey, it's the equinox, but it does it within 1 minute. The one in Egypt and the one in Mexico City here. So this kind of amazing stuff, isn't it? Furthermore, we found out, and I found out just looking around, that Ekbalam and Chichen Itza, and getting in there in the late evenings almost when there's nobody there, that these surfaces are set up, these steps are not steps, they're seats for people to sit on, and the acoustics of it are just mind-boggling. And sure enough, Graham Hancock is talking about walking along in here, and you could hear a pin drop any place around this gigantic area if you were in certain areas. This is engineered for sound too, you know. And now Sam Osmanagich is finding out there's 28 kilohertz beam coming off the Bosnia pyramid. So these things do a lot of things, but I think, you know, the one thing they're overlooking, number one, they just won't say the word astrology. These guys were doing a very high form of astrology. They were predicting stuff, and they had it down. And what we have are just the, you know, the junk. We have the, well, here's a good example, is that, you know, a huge flood from Noah's time comes along 12,000 years ago, and it washes away a lot of the stuff, and then, you know, somebody else comes along and builds their church on it, like, you know, the Cholula in Puebla, Mexico, has that wonderful shot of just one little bit of the pyramid has been uncovered, but it's bigger in volume than the Egyptian pyramids, and up on top of it is a Catholic church. And Graham points out, very rightly so, that, you know, we have these amazing things here, and we have no idea why they're all mirrored after Orion's belt, and why the Mayan cities are all located where there's a bright star. And these guys are doing very sophisticated astrology. The Hopis are similar, and so you know, we're beginning to see now that these things match. Do we dare use the word? They were looking at the sky. They weren't astronomers and mathematicians. They were astrologers, and they did amazing things. And I think the way that these things flash the equinox is a really big deal, and it has to do with the sun. And when you start looking at what they call religion or mythology, all you find there is the so-called worship of the sun. I mean, it's very hard to get through what modern scholars write about these people in these times, because as far as they're concerned, these are ignorant savages that worshipped willy-nilly anything, any goblin that they put together, they considered a god and worshipped it. I mean, they have made the world's greatest civilizations and the world's greatest astrology and the greatest religion. They brought it down to human sacrifice and bloody savages, and it's really not fair. Well, it's prejudice. These guys think, we start back here 5,000 years ago, we're in the caves, and now we rise, and it's a straight line progression right up to our amazing modern selves who are much smarter than everybody else. Uh-oh, look out. Now, the other thing I learned from the study of ancient civilizations, the other thing that came through the disasters was the no shadow time. And I just don't look at things out of books, I do them. I got 8 planets in Earth and Taurus rising. So I started going out and praying when the sun was at no shadow. I just gave you all those wondrous times. And wow, I got amazing results. And then I found out the moon also comes to magical places. And to me, this isn't, some symbol. This is Father in the sky. And, all these civilizations that now they go back 50,000 years knew this until along came the age of Pisces. And we got lost. And people changed words and said, oh, they're worshiping hundreds and thousands. And people have the idea that Hindus and all these other people have all these gods. What are the planets, I mean, Christianity has angels, right? So, this is a problem that we're going to have to get around in order to understand where these guys are coming from at all. And, the sciences that are available, I mean, pyramid generators, it looks like Tesla's drawing power off the earth and the sun and things. And, our religion is in the way. These things we call religion is in the way of recognizing sun's the father, moon's the mother. It's all you got to do is look up. And it seems like anybody could see that. Well, of course, unless you've been brainwashed for years and years and years and years of school, years and years of language and movies and all this stuff, brainwashed into what? Believing that this is just the sun is just a sun. Oh yeah, it's not Father. No. So look, folks, Graham Hancock went through the whole wonderful book. I recommend it to you, Fingerprints of the Gods. Twice maybe he uses the word astrology, and he's going to be quiet about it. I hope you're not. When you look up in the sky and see the sun, say out loud, hello, Father. You can say it quietly. When you see the moon in the sky, say, hello, Mother. And check the show on the website, will you? That's where you want to see it.